Okay, so I've got this project that we started last time. Just a few, animations with some text kind of working together. And what I want to do with this now is think a little bit more about audio, how we can add some more audio into this and how we can do some edits. So first off, like, where do you get audio? There's some pretty good sources online. I tend to use, I think it's Free Sounds. I spelled that wrong. Is this it? Yeah, so this is called freesound.org. I like it. There's a lot of stuff on here. It's maybe not, always the best things, but it certainly has a lot of things you can use. You need to create a basic login to use it. I can't even spell my name very well. That's okay. I'm so used to typing on my laptop that the keyboard feels awkward. Okay, so once you're in, you can just search for stuff. Let's say glass shattering, for example, and it'll bring up all kinds of different things that you can preview of glass shattering. All right, and so just to note, in terms of like download time and size, the .wav files are much higher quality. They're also a lot bigger. So if you download those, they will take more space. The MP3s are going to be smaller, less quality, but a lot faster, a lot smaller to download. All right, it's pretty good. So if you like that one, you just click on it, and then you can download. Right? Wow. So it'll open up in iTunes. All right. What's that? Yeah, it was playing on iTunes. So I usually just close that out. So anyway, if once that's there, the thing to remember with After Effects is it is going to be not housing all your files together in one place, similar to Cinema 4D, right? So what I always like to do is whenever I download something is to bring it into the folder I'm working with. So for this project, I have a folder called the 12 Principles, and this is where all my files are stored. So what I will do is go to my downloads, wherever that is. Here's the glass recycling, and just bring it into this folder. All right. It's just a good rule of thumb to practice this, because if you're moving around between computers, your files will get lost, and then you'll have missing data. So now I can go to my project, and I can import a file and locate that that new audio file, which has lots of long names. Drums. Here we go. And then it pops it into my project. All right. So one thing that I think is important to consider is how to get some audio. I mean, obviously we can set up a background audio, right? You can imagine, some sort of audio that you may be working with for some background. But I think what's important to consider is how do I get some audio to work with movement, right? Because that's what's going to help make a project feel more alive and accentuate this sort of motion. So for example, this little guy jumping, I think I found a audio clip of the kind of cartoon-like boing noise, right? And so I'm just going to use that to try to line it up. So I've got to see which one. This one, okay. So I'm going to take this file and I'm going to put it right where this action is happening, right? So this is the file, the audio file. And if I play it, I get that sort of noise to happen, right? Now, we want to be able to line the noise up really concisely with the object to make it look like it's really affecting it. So the thing to do is to do this visually. And if you open up the audio track and you open up the audio here and you open up waveform, you can actually see what this looks like in that sort of waveform motion. And if you take down here the zoom level, if you if you zoom in a little bit more, you can get a more detailed look as to where this action is happening. So if I scrub through this, what I want to happen is kind of that noise to be the launching point. So it's going to switch down, and then it's going to begin to come up. That's kind of where I want the high point of that noise to happen, right? And so you can see that actually on the waveform. It's where these peaks are happening right here. So if I put my marker where I want the action to happen, I can just move this to get the peaks to kind of line up. And so now I can preview, see what it looks like. Looks pretty good. I think it's a little early. I'm going to move it a little bit more this way. Let's see what that looks like. Okay, it's not too bad. Again, yeah, it's pretty good. I think maybe a little bit more. But this just allows you a way to kind of like gauge where you can visually set these things up and get it to align with whatever motion you're working with. So typically any sort of audio file is going to have this waveform. And again, you're just looking for it under opening up the track, under audio, and under waveform. So it's just a great way to kind of line these up. All right, other things that you may want to do. So I've got the boing noise, which I like. I have another one for this, this end animation here, which is this sort of weird thing dragging across the surface. So for this one, I found some audio of metal being dragged across the surface. And again, I just found it on the freesounds.org website. So I'm going to put that down here. Okay. And this is longer than my clip, which is okay. And when I play this out, it's got some good dragging noise. It's a little bit too long though for what I want it to do. So I'm going to play around with the timing of this to make it shorter. So of course, if you can imagine playing this faster, it's going to be a higher pitch. So you're going to be changing the overall sound of it. But I don't think that's going to matter so much with this abstraction that I'm working with. So if I go up to layer and go to time, I can go to this thing called time stretch, right? So time stretch, 100% is no stretch. So we're either stretching it to make it longer or shrinking it down to make it faster. So in this case, I want it to be faster. I'm going to try like 50%, which is going to make it, you know, from 12-second clip to the 6-second clip. I hit OK, and it's going to shorten my file overall. So I'm just going to play this through to see what it looks like. I don't think it's too bad. I think that maybe I want it a little bit faster. So the cool thing is you don't have to if you do time stretch again, it's going to show you what it's currently at. I'm going to try 40. I think that'll be good. And then I'm going to open up the waveform here so I can see what this would look like. So I can see that there's this sort of drag-like motion that happens. I get these peaks and valleys. If I play it from here, that's kind of like where the valley is where it's starting to drag. So if I think about that here, it's going to drag across, stop, and then right about here is where it's going to start to drag again. So I'm going to pull this over so the valley is right in the middle of that, and let's play this and see what this looks like now. That looks pretty good. Of course, I need a little bit more, which is no problem either. So what I can do here is just begin to copy and paste. Copy this, paste it, can move it over. If you hit shift while you're moving, it will snap to the end of whatever file you're working on. And we can see how this looks now. Not too bad. So I think that will work for what I'm expecting of this project here. It comes in, comes out. Now, the other thing that I may want to do with this is have the audio kind of like fade in and then fade out, right? So it's not such a hard jump. So what I can do is on this one, I can play around with keyframing the audio level, all right? So I might want to zoom in just a little bit here. I'm going to snap right to the beginning. and I'll press this little time clock to make a keyframe happen. It'll show up as a little blue diamond. And I'm gonna turn this down, I would say to like, I don't know, -48 is probably quite enough. If you go too far down, the ramp is a little bit too long, so you know, below -48, we don't hear it anyway. So I'm gonna move forward in the timeline. I'm gonna change this to 0. I can even just type it in. There we go. And let's play this through now. So now it fades in a little bit. I can drag this out if I want it to be a slower fade. That's pretty good. Okay, and then the same thing is true on the next file below. I can scroll over. I can go to the end of this, and similarly, pop in a keyframe, move forward in the timeline. I'm going to snap to the end of the sequence, and I'm going to turn this down to -48. All right, and then again, I've got a ramp out that sort of like fades away, right? So I've got the sound, and it fades out. Okay, so that is a great way to start thinking about lining up audio with your animations. And again, any sort of animation that you can connect to motion is going to be really helpful to just exaggerate that sort of sense of movement and time. So typically with audio, I don't go too crazy with mixing and making crazy sound effects here. What I'm doing the most is splicing in things, ramping it up and down in terms of the keyframe. And sometimes I'll split clips as well. So for example, if I, this is just sort of like this would be like an overall audio, right? So this is just some sound, maybe like some background sound. And this one has a drum, sort of a drum kick that comes in as well, but it's way at the end. So what I may want to do is like line this up, and let's say I have this happen, and then I want the drum kick to happen right when this starts to pop in here. So I'm actually going to, at this point, you can go to Edit and Split Layer. Okay, what that's going to do is just going to cut it in half, right? So, and if I open up this waveform, and I drag this over, you can kind of see when the drums, what it looks like when the drums kick in. There's a pause, and then these big spikes, that's sort of like those drum kicks. So I'm just going to snap that here, and now I have this overlapping audio. Right? Way too loud though. So if this were a background sort of audio, I'd want this to be lower. So I'm going to try like -20. Oh, that might be too low. I'll do this one -20 as well. Maybe not though. I don't know. Let's see. It's too low, but that's okay. Let's try -5. Again, this is just a bit of experimentation. No rules to this. It's more just not too bad. Look at the point. And so again, you can, anything you have, you can cut and splice, you can layer over the top. And again, the function of that is just simply split layer. So it's under Edit, Split Layer. It will split things in half, and then you can sequence it together. You know, another thing that you could, just a quick example, I don't know if I would actually do this, but if I split this again, let's just do here. This is the, okay, if I split this layer and then take this one, and let's just time stretch this down to 50%. So it's gonna, now this file is gonna be going a lot faster. Let's see what that sounds like. because I split it and I made it a lot faster, it's totally speeding up from that original sort of sound. So that was probably too much. But anyway, that gives you a sense of like what you can do with time stretch. It sometimes can be really effective, and other times it can be kind of hokey, but really all right. I'm really creating some dynamic audio and video now. Okay, so that's the basics of audio. Again, I think it's important to think about what type of audio is going to accentuate your scene. You don't have to do grabbed audio. You could totally make your own audio as well. So some people have literally just used the voice recorder on their phone, playing through their video, and just made sounds with their mouth. It's totally possible as well. Or other ways of creating sound effects, right, with other instruments or whatever. So that's a possibility. But I do like, you know, the Free Sound site. I think that there's a lot of good stuff on here, and you might be able to find something to help out. And there's certainly a lot of others that are out there for your use.